Welcome to the highlights episode of Global Perspectives Season 1. Throughout this season, we've brought together distinguished experts and thought leaders to share perspectives on the most critical issues shaping our world today. Today, we revisit the most insightful moments of Season 1. How does Bhutan navigate its diplomatic relationship with neighbors like India and China?
This is reference to the expression I talked to you about, that Nepal and Bhutan look at themselves as a yam between two rocks, or that they are between the hot place and a rock. Mm-hmm. When we look at Bhutan's position in the region, I think the central to our foreign policy is the neutrality. In our diplomatic history, there is no record where Bhutan tried to pitch the powers against each other, and that actually remains Bhutan's standing and overarching foreign policy approach. So when it comes to your question that how it is navigating, I think there is a clear understanding between the countries around Bhutan that Bhutan stands for neutrality, and also, for example, at the moment, Bhutan does not have diplomatic relations with China. It does not mean that Bhutan does not have good relations with China. Bhutan shares good relations with both countries, India and China, and in the region, Nepal. So, when it comes to our priority, I think, is to ensure that the region is stable, that out of that stability, all the countries in the region benefit. Mm-hmm. So that is, I think, as a scholar, that is how I look at Bhutan's foreign policy, or in your language, how it navigates.
Israel does very well with recycled wastewater technology. Reusing wastewater and desaltifying water is how Israel meets its need for water. Due to the global warming, water shortage seems to be an evident global problem. Cities like Kathmandu are already facing a problem of water shortage. Do you see this area as an area for future cooperation?
Definitely. The issue of pollution, of water pollution, of wastage in Israel had a top priority. The reason is clear. Israel is a desert. Half of the country is harsh desert, and the other half is a moderate desert. But definitely we have shortage of water. Without water, there is no life. Now, the challenges in Nepal is not because of the lack or shortage of rainfall, but because of the pollution. How should I say? Modern society is creating more and more waste. This is the nature of modernity. Industry, households, when you wash the car, when you wash the clothes, when you produce something, chemicals are spread. We must take care of our rivers. In Israel, we have only one, and believe me, when Nepalis are looking at our river, they are smiling because it looks like a no-name little cola somewhere that nobody recognizes. But even in Nepal, pollution has no boundaries and no limits. And what happened to some of the rivers here is terrible. And I know that pollution can be cleared and can be solved. Now it's a process. We have the machines, we have the instruments. You need an investment, but then you get fresh water. I know my friends tell me that they used to swim in the Bagmati. Some of the people, they were having paddy fields here in Kathmandu Valley, and in the lunch break, they used to go and to wash their hands in the water. I'm not sure it is recommended this time to do it, but it is a reversible process, and I know that things can happen here in Nepal as well. In Israel, the shortage is so much that we even desalinate water from the ocean, from the Mediterranean, and we change them into drinkable water. It's an amazing process, and by the way, this system is now exported to all over the Middle East. And I think that some parts of Nepal needs a better treatment of pollution and to give a solution to the rivers. You have lovely rivers, lovely clean rivers, and the ones that are polluted should be treated.
And in a world where careers are ever changing, the scenario is ever changing, sometimes due to war, sometimes due to the development of technology, for example, recently due to AI and the COVID, how would you advise the organizations to stick to a particular strategy when it comes to planning and implementation?
One, we look at these, what we call these different meeting rhythms, how regularly the team should meet. So quarterly, they should meet to review the plan. We believe, and that's usually a whole day off-site, the team together in their offices or in a conference room, but quarterly, how has the last quarter looked and what do we need to change? That's the best way to basically adjust, because the plan that we created a month ago, maybe it's right, maybe we're right on target. There have been no changes externally to the climate or to the economic conditions. We stay with the plan. But if we don't meet every quarter, at least to ask ourselves, how did we do the last quarter? How do we want to do the next quarter? That's why this quarterly rhythm can be so important, to make those adjustments. And then the plan is real. The plan is being used all the time, not just being created at the beginning of the year and put in the corner. And a lot of companies, I think, make that mistake of not using the plan over the course of the year.
Your work at the Weinberg Communications included breaking new technologies into the market. So how do you stay ahead of trend and you know what the market wants?
That's a great question. You know, most of the companies that I took on had technologies I'd never even seen. So, you kind of have to really work with the executives of the company to understand what they created and why they created it. I'll give you an example. I just worked with a client out of Dubai that's creating a decentralized internet. Right now, the internet is all centralized servers owned by big companies. He's inventing a technology that allows anybody to have servers. So you could have 100 million home servers, and that could run the whole internet.
Wow.
You don't need Google anymore. You don't need Amazon storage. So that's a guy with a great idea. He hired me early. His technology is not even ready for the market. It's just coming on now, 2 years after he had hired me initially. So sometimes you learn technology from the executives, you research it, then you find out they're too early. Mm-hmm. You can't do much with it. But you do have to pretty much start with the executives and then research the marketplace, see where the technology fits, talk to users, see how they're working with it, and then you can deliver a message to the public that helps bring the public closer to where the company wants the public to be.
When we see people talking about science and spirituality historically, then we see that they tend to paint a picture that's completely polar opposites.
That's right.
While it doesn't have to be that way. And recently, they've come to a pattern where they want to see science and spirituality going together. What do you think is the reason behind that change?
There's always polarization of views. And then there's also faith or some part of the human society that try to bring the opposite views together. I actually see benefits of both, while I see the challenges of both. Challenges when a polarization is done in terms of the views, people start somewhat an aggressive behavior towards the other views. So I say it's a challenge. And now I bring to the positive aspect is, by having a polarized views, opposite polarized parties are actually pushing limits of the knowledge because they are challenging each other. So now they may not admit openly, but they're thinking, hey, there is something there. So I need to go and fix it. I need to discover the gaps. I need to fill the gaps. So there is, I see the positive aspect of challenging each other. So my suggestion is challenge each other, but in a, what I call a civilized way.
To bring out the best.
Bring out the best in others, but in a civilized way. Mm-hmm. So that way what happens is that is back to the how humanity prosper on planet Earth. If they have always been really at each other's throat, I do not think humanity would flourish. It is progressing because they understood, in addition to competition, we must have compassion. Compassion is nothing but giving space for others, caring for others. Others means their point of view. So I think if they can bring out their strong polarized views, but at the same time keep that respect for each other, or compassion for each other, but both of them say, let's find the best you can come up.
We can see that in India and in Nepal, there are lots of cases of poverty. So in a country where people are not getting their basic needs, how can we expect them to cooperate with the government or with concerned authorities and institutions to guarantee a peaceful country?
Poverty and peace, it is a contradicting. Most of the time, poverty leads conflict. We are poor. We do not have sufficient resources to manage our day-to-day life. We do not have work because unemployment rate is also very high. Education is also very costly. Health infrastructure is also very poor. So what government is supposed to do is that the budget has to be allocated for education, health service, infrastructure on the basis of need of the people. A particular area requires infrastructure development, give priority to them. If a particular area doesn't have any hospital, health infrastructure, give them enough health infrastructures. If there are certain areas which doesn't have any school, I have seen my life. So excuse can be tolerated up to certain extent, not permanent. Once your tolerance level is collapsed, then naturally conflict will surface.
You just mentioned that working in a publishing house means working with a team, and it's nearly practically impossible to always keep everybody happy. So when there's a situation of a conflict or confusion, how do you move through it?
I very much encourage input. I don't want somebody to say after we published a book, I didn't think that was going to work, but I didn't say anything. I would much rather have people come in. And whenever possible, I try to reach a consensus so that the author, the staff member, and myself, we all agree. But sometimes that doesn't happen. And two people make the final decision. The author is in charge of the message and should never give up the message no matter what the publisher says. But I am the expert on publishing, and so if we have to, people have to defer to my judgment, because I've been in this business for nearly 40 years.
When we talk about spirituality and people linking to spirituality, we have something that's called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where there is a pyramid and we have the basic needs in the bottom. So meaning to say, until you have your basic needs fulfilled, you can't go for self-actualization or self-realization. Since in India, in Nepal, and in a lot of developing countries, there are a lot of population, a lot of people who are in the poverty line or are below the poverty line. So does that mean spirituality is only for the rich people and not for the poor people?
Many Rishi Munis, even in present era also, they are only with one pair of clothes and one pot for their food only. So spirituality has to do nothing with your economic status.
How would you define the importance of international and intercultural collaboration in music and the future of music?
Well, first of all, it's important to realize that music is in itself a global language. It's one of the only tools that unites everybody on the planet. So we have to embrace that and make use out of that fact that music can unite. So, in my opinion, this global mindset for musicians is really, really important. So we need to give opportunities to all students and teachers and everybody who's related to the music industry a global outlook, meaning that it's not enough to stay in your comfort zone in your own country with your own people, so to speak. You have to go out and meet other cultures in order to create, well, both better music and better human beings.
Have you ever considered reframing indigenous knowledge in the Arctic and the Third Pole such that it becomes not just a local asset, but a source of global wisdom?
In the Arctic, indigenous knowledge is hugely valued, and it is valued within the framework of institutions. So in the Arctic, we have several institutions that are working at the interstate level, and also local actors are participating. Just to give you an example of Arctic Council. So this is an intergovernmental forum of 8 Arctic states, where state parties are the main actor, but at the same time, indigenous peoples, they participate as actors, as non-state actors, and they sit together with the states. So they work together and discuss issues and adopt decisions where indigenous people, they are called, indigenous peoples representations are there from all across the Arctic region. So they are called permanent participants. So it's a kind of the terminology used within the framework of Arctic Council, and their indigenous knowledge is communicated in the decision-making process. So the value of indigenous knowledge has been very much recognized within the framework of Arctic Council processes. So it means that indigenous people's knowledge is to some extent institutionalized. So I think that is very important, and that can be something the other region could learn. For example, in the Third Pole, it could learn the lessons from the Arctic Council, how indigenous peoples or even other local non-state actors can be engaged.
Since technology has influenced almost all the sectors, it has also had its influence in arts, education. Could you tell us something about that?
First of all, educating performing artists. We've always had this dilemma between the technological development and the art form itself. So we try to see the art form as it has been seen for centuries, as an art form that is based on the bodily work, the musicality, the ability to relate to a living audience, but also, of course, to be able to relate to an invisible audience as when we do film and TV and stuff like that. So in that way, we're working on both, but we are not afraid of the technology. We are just very interested in the living relation between the performing artists and the audience. And that will never be ruined by technological developments.
What are the most effective strategies in fostering collaboration in the field of music, education and culture?
I think one of the most important things is actually to, you almost say the word yourself, collaborating. It's the ability to actively collaborate, actively co-create with your students, with your teachers, having student-centered teaching and learning, and focusing on the individual student as your main objective for your strategies of learning. And that is something that we have been working on and working with in many institutions, of course, but also something that we have been focusing on in my present job now as you know, the chairman of the music schools in Denmark, but also for earlier on as principal of the academy.
With this, we have come to the end of Season 1 of Global Perspectives. We will be back with Season 2. Until then, hope you have a great week ahead. Namaste.